Hey there, how there, ho there. It's Jeff Cutter Diamond with another YouTube video, and this time it's the 30 greatest Simpsons episodes in the past 30 years. Now, I know everyone is saying that it's pretty much all from like the first 10 seasons, but it's not like that. So since we had 30 seasons of The Simpsons, and today is Tuesday, December 17th, 2019, which is the 30th anniversary of Simpsons Roasting on an Open Fire, the first ever Simpsons episode in their TV debut after being on the Tracy Ullman Show for 2 years. It was amazing. Simpsons Roasting on an Open Fire is legendary and all that. A lot of people actually said that they'll probably end the show with something similar to Simpsons Roasting on an Open Fire. But anyway, so I picked my favorite episode of each of the past 30 years. Obviously, it's my picks, and no one else has influenced it. Now, here's the thing. So basically, I avoided holiday shows, like anything to do with Easter, Christmas, New Year's, Valentine's Day, anything with a holiday involved in it, I took out. I did a Christmas Simpsons guide. I will link to that in the description below. But that was 5 years ago, no, it was like 3 years ago, and I haven't really looked at the Simpsons Christmas stuff because, it's just gone bland ever since. So anyway, yeah, I did a top 25 list 5 years ago. Now I'm going to have to do that and add on with my 30 seasons. I'm going to try as best as I can to cut my episode descriptions down to under 2 minutes per episode because, that's an hour. First is season 1's There's No Disgrace Like Home. This was the episode when Homer tries to get a promotion from Mr. Burns in the power plant, but his family basically ends up costing him a promotion. So Homer tries to make his family be more normal and all that. They snoop into other people's business and all that and nearly get caught. Homer basically decides to get them to Dr. Marvin Monroe's family therapy to see if they click and all that. Of course, the family isn't appreciative, and they draw Homer as being the bad guy in the family, as an ogre and all that. But remember, Homer in season 1 was very much more like a Walter Matthau type of character. That's what the creator said. And of course, Homer gets stupider and less parental throughout the years. So anyway, Homer puts him into shock therapy, and it's not working all that. However, the family bonds together. But Dr. Marvin Monroe says, you gotta leave, and Homer says, hold on, your things at Family Bliss or double our money back. Dr. Marvin Monroe gives them double their money back. Season 2 is Bart Gets an F. That's the first episode from season 2, but Bart unfortunately has been failing tests at a nominal rate, and basically his study habits are not any good either. Sure and Terry give him false answers. Martin tries to tell Bart things. Bart fakes being sick to get out of the test, but when he redo the test, he basically sucks. The school psychiatrist and Mr. Krabappel both agree that Bart would be much better if he was held back a year. Bart vows to do better. No one believes him. Even Marge says maybe it'll be beneficial. But Bart basically makes a vow to graduate grade 4. So he gets Martin to help him with study stuff in exchange for making him popular. Unfortunately, Martin basically takes Bart's teachings too well and leaves Bart high and dry. Bart prays for a snow day, which he gets. Lisa tells Bart that the snow day was Bart's way of trying to get things going. So Bart tries to study, but his subconscious basically talks about the snow day and everyone enjoying it. Bart slaps himself silly, trying to will himself. So anyway, he gets a 59, which is a fail in America. It should be 60. 60's a pass, but Bart cries. But he does make an oral question, and he gets the 60, and his parents actually put the grade on the fridge. Season 3 is Homer at the Bat. Now, this was big for The Simpsons because they decided to use guest stars, not celebrities, unless you're a sports fan and think that sports players are celebrities. But anyway, they went head to head against The Cosby Show because at the time, The Simpsons were on Thursdays at 8 o'clock, and Cosby Show was on NBC, Simpsons being on Fox. And they beat The Cosby Show in the ratings, and this was amazing. So, Mr. Burns puts together a softball team. Well, Homer helps the softball team, and they do well. Now they have to face Shelbyville for the championship. Both Burns and Aristopoulos, the owner of the Shelbyville plant, make $1 million bet. Burns decides to use ringers, but his ringers, like Cap Anson and Three Finger Brown, of course, are all freaking deceased. So anyway, he decides to tell Smithers to get some living players. So he gets at catcher Mike Scioscia, who played for the Dodgers, and he actually fell to radiation poisoning as he was the only major leaguer to take the job seriously. What's funny is Mike Scioscia would make another appearance, not only in The Simpsons, but on my list. Number 2, first base is Don Mattingly of the Yankees, who basically seemed polite, but Mr. Burns tells him to shave his sideburns off, even though Mattingly does that. But Mattingly agrees that he's better than Steinbrenner. Second base is Steve Sachs from the Yankees, I think. I think he was playing for the Yankees at the time. I know he was a former Dodger. But anyway, Steve Sachs basically was a good second baseman. Basically, the police frame him with all the crimes in New York City. But it could also be a point that, the police lost that softball game to the power plant, and Homer taunted them. They were just getting revenge. Third base is Wade Boggs, who was with the Boston Red Sox at the time. And he basically got punched out by Barney in an argument over the best British Prime Minister, Pitt the Elder or Lord Palmerston. As Barney says. Ozzie Smith at shortstop from the Cardinals. The Wizard of Oz. Basically, he went to Springfield's mystery spot. He was portrayed as a clueless tourist, but he went to the mystery spot and didn't return. The outfield had Jose Canseco, who was playing for, I believe, Texas at the time. Yeah, it was Oakland, then Texas. He basically is told he gets $50,000 to play in one game and says it's a pay cut. If we do the math on that, that means he gets paid about $8 million a season. But of course, this was 1992. Center field is Ken Griffey Jr. from the Seattle Mariners. Unfortunately, his downfall was due to gin and nerve tonic. And right field is Darryl Strawberry from the Los Angeles Dodgers at that time. And basically, he was a kiss up to Burns and all that. Oh yeah, and we can't forget Roger Clemens, the pitcher who played for Boston at the time of the show. He was a chicken and all that. Basically, fate befell 8 of the 9 ringers for Burns. Strawberry was the only ringer. And Strawberry actually was taken out of the game for Homer because Burns, in one of his weird ways of being accurate, decided to play the percentages and send a right-handed batter against a lefty pitcher. And, Strawberry bats left. So anyway, Strawberry is hit for by Homer. Homer gets hit on the head with the ball. He gets a hit by pitch, but the winning RBI is the power plant wins. Season 4 is Mr. Plow. Basically, Homer wrecks both his and Marge's car in an accident and gets a plow to try to make some money. All that. In fact, Homer is conned by a slick-talking salesman who basically hates Homer having that, like, being he's whipped. So anyway, Homer does plow some people's driveways. He does inadvertently cause trouble, as when he did it for Apu, and then sneak in an accomplice robbed the Quickie Mart. When he did the retirement home, all the seniors wanted to go outside, but they were cold and frightened. And at the school, well, obviously Bart got the raft with snowballs. Unfortunately, Barney one-ups Homer when he gets his own plow and basically steals Homer's business. Homer tries a rap song and all that, but it doesn't work. And he tries some kind of commercial that was kind of vaguely weird. So anyway, Homer sends Barney on a wild goose chase so that he can get his customers back. Unfortunately, he feels guilty about sending Homer on Barney on Whittle's Peak, excuse me. So anyway, they decide that they should be partners, but God makes a vow to make a vow which basically ruins both cloud businesses. Season 5 is Deep Space Homer. Now, I know that the Real Gems did a Simpsons Season 5 Top 10 countdown a couple weeks ago, and he couldn't decide which was number 1. It was hard, but I put Deep Space Homer because of the significance of things. Homer is due to win a Worker of the Week award because everyone else has won one, except for Homer. But Homer gets defeated by a carbon rod. So anyway, Homer basically tries to get everyone's respect and all that. He calls NASA, insults them, and NASA decides to give him a chance to be an astronaut, mostly because they're losing in TV ratings to Iconic Christmas, among other things. Homer and Barney go to space camp. Barney easily wins, but unfortunately he gets knocked off his mind by non-alcoholic champagne, and basically Homer wins by default. Homer actually is scared to go into space, but is reminded by Marge that, it's not just because of the respect, it's because, you could regret a big move later on in your life. And Homer realized the story about how he could have met Mr. T and he missed the chance. So he decides to go up to space. He inadvertently causes trouble when he releases space ants that plug up the system. Using a carbon rod, he gets the space shuttle home quickly. Thankfully for Homer, he is a hero in a sense, but they give the carbon rod a parade. Homer, I think, does win Player of the One for some week or something like that for being in space. Season 6 is Sideshow Bob Roberts. That's when Sideshow Bob gets lucky and gets out of prison thanks to Birch Barlow, saying that the mayor is stupid. And the mayor, in a mayoral election, basically releases Sideshow Bob. It's kind of funny that Sideshow Bob released a commercial saying that Mayor Quimby has a revolving door prison thing, and says he released Sideshow Bob. Full Sideshow Bob for mayor. Funny. Bart and Lisa try to foil Sideshow Bob at every turn. Sideshow Bob easily wins the election 100 to 1%, but mostly due to the fact that he plays on Homer and Krusty's emotions. Basically, a Selma killing proposal helps Homer, and Krusty says, well, he framed me for armed robbery, but those cuts for the middle class, tax cuts, are good. But Lisa and Bart find out that he had dead celebrities and dead pets vote for him, including Snowball 1. Basically, they tricked Sideshow Bob to basically tell his plan and basically said that you need Republicans, not Democrats. But Bob goes back to prison. The proposed Matlock Expressway, which was going to bulldoze the Simpsons home, around the Simpsons home, is scrapped. And Bart, who was basically put in kindergarten by spite by Sideshow Bob, goes back to 4th grade, but he enjoys kindergarten there. Season 7 is Who Shot Mr. Burns, Part 2, because Part 1 was the finale in Season 6, and of course, all through the summer, it's like, Who Shot Mr. Burns? So in Season 7 is basically that they try to find out who shot Mr. Burns. Smithers is the prime suspect because, Smithers had a relationship with Burns and basically shot him out of anger. However, it's revealed that Smithers is innocent because he shot someone else, thanks to Krusty saying something about a Pardon My Singer reference. Smithers did shoot somebody. He shot Jasper's wooden leg. So anyway, it's still unknown what happened. Marge seems a little bit unnerved because Lisa tries to bring up the case and Marge tries to divert Lisa's attention. Homer is cornered as the suspect because his fingerprints are on the gun inadvertently because he was looking for an ice cream cone and accidentally got onto the gun. Mr. Burns keeps saying Homer Simpson as a name because, Homer is angry that Mr. Burns doesn't remember his name. And what else was it? Oh, and the hair on Burns' body was Simpson DNA. Of course, Lisa says that the DNA is Simpson DNA. Marge is free because of Bouvier. But Marge says, I don't know, Lisa. I had to take some DNA. Simpson DNA. Which is kind of strange. But anyway, yeah. I recommend going to the Real Jim's YouTube page on the Who Potentially Shot Mr. Burns because he does different characters who may have shot Mr. Burns and how, everyone in the Simpson family seems to be a suspect and all that, even Lisa. So anyway, yeah, it was found out that Maggie shot Mr. Burns. But a lot of evidence suggested that Maggie may have been caught. And basically, well, Maggie did actually accidentally shoot Burns because Burns wanted Maggie's candy. Anyway, season 8 is Homer's Enemy. Homer's Enemy is the one that is when when Frank Grimes has a story on Kent's people, like Kent Brockman's human interest story, basically saying that he was abandoned by his family. He was made to be a courier for rich kids. And then at 18, he got hit in a silo accident and basically had to rethink of his senses. So basically what ends up happening is he's accepted by president until Burns finds a heroic dog and demotes Grimes to 7G where Homer, Lenny, and Carl are. Grimes is upset about how lax Homer is, and even being the safety inspector, and basically how Homer's coasting by with the help of everyone else and all that. He decides to test Homer's stupidity by making him enter a model contest for children. Homer ends up winning the contest, basically by copying the power plant they know now, but adding fins for wind resistance and a cool racing stripe. Fins for wind resistance. Jeez, I would never have guessed. But anyway, Homer wins. Grimes goes on a tirade and then electrocutes himself. It doesn't also help matters that Grimes is upset that Homer, for all his buffoonery, actually met Gerald Ford, The Smashing Pumpkins, George Harrison, even had a Grammy. One of only a handful of times that Homer was happy having a Grammy. But of course, Grimes dies. Homer takes the attention away from Grimes by saying, change the channel, Marge, at the funeral. Next is Principal and the Pauper Season 9. I know. But this was a turning point. And all that. I know for all the negativeness. So anyway, Principal Skinner is about to have his 20th anniversary at the school. So what ends up happening is that there's someone else who comes by the name of Seymour Skinner. It turns out that the Principal Skinner is Armin Tamzarian, who basically was a street punk and was forced to either go to the army, apologize to a couple of people, or go to jail. But he went to the army, and Sergeant Skinner treated him well. And when Sergeant Skinner was missing in action, Armin thought he had the cruel task of telling Agnes that her son was dead. But he couldn't do it. He just couldn't do it. Of course, the town is outraged. Marge is the most outraged that Armin would lie to the whole town and all that. But anyway, Armin goes to Capital City. Agnes actually believes that Armin should be her son. I mean, Armin's been her son longer than Seymour. And anyway, and Agnes wants Armin because Armin is basically a mama's boy. Basically that because Sergeant Skinner actually stands up to Agnes wants someone who will bow down to her, in a sense. I can't find the right synonym or adjective for it. So anyway, the town decides to bring Armin back and make him the new Seymour Skinner. Nobody cares about Armin Tamzarian being a fake, except for Marge possibly, but I think Marge was basically allowable to that. So basically they take Sergeant Skinner and put him on the rails and then put Armin Tamzarian to become Seymour Skinner. And basically they said that if anyone mentions about this Armin thing, they will get tortured. And everyone cheers. Now that only happens once in iDobot. When Lisa says to Skinner about Armin. Now, Lisa didn't get in trouble because of two things. Number one, Skinner would not have allowed Lisa to get in trouble. And number two is that other than Skinner, Lisa, and Snowball 5, aka Snowball 2, who else heard that conversation and who would have called Lisa out on it? Yeah. Season 10 is 20 minutes over Tokyo. Or no, 30 minutes over Tokyo, fuck. So anyway, I like this show. Obviously, I'm a Japan file. So anyway, someone who likes Japan. So anyway, Homer ends up squandering his family's life savings for a cyber attack. And they go to a seminar to squeeze every penny and save money for a vacation. Of course, they save enough for a mega savers vacation that basically they can buy tickets cheaply from no-shows. Now, of course, in real life, that doesn't happen. It's the opposite. It costs you more, I think, to buy from no-shows. So anyway, the Simpson family wants to go to different places. Homer wants to go to Jamaica. Marge and Maggie want to go to Hawaii. Lisa wants to go to Paris. And Bart wants to go to Romania. But then Japan pops up, and when the Flanders are in the Japanese garb, Homer sees them and swipes the Mega Saver tickets away from those guys. They go to Japan. It's a little bit prejudice and all that. I did like the sumo scene that Homer and Bart go to a sumo stadium because, I'm a sumo guy, sumo file too. But anyway, that scene, of course, in Japan you can't see that episode because it makes fun of Japan, and mostly because the emperor being thrown into sumo thongs, like to hurt the emperor is one thing, of course. So Homer and his family go to a game show to win their freedom back to Springfield. Season 11 is Alone Again, not digitally. Lisa and her family take a hike in Springfield Bird Sanctuary, but it's actually covered by a racing track. So the Simpsons go to the races and all that. Homer wants a t-shirt so badly he jiggles himself in front of Maude, forcing her from her seat. He paints a ketchup target on himself and is ready to receive 4 t-shirts at once. And then for some reason, he picks up a bobby pin. He bends down, picks up a bobby pin. At the same time, Maude is to bonk. The t-shirts get her. She dies massively. So anyway, of course, Ned's left without his valuable life and all that. Bart is made to make the Flanders children happy again. Homer does feel guilt because, remember, it's Homer's fault. Like, Homer forced Maude from her seat because of his jiggling her shirt. Homer bent down to pick up a bobby pin at the wrong time. The t-shirts came and knocked Maude off. And Homer accidentally parked in the ambulance spot that would have probably saved some time for resuscitation, even though Dr. Hibbert did pronounce her dead on scene. So practically Homer. But we don't know if Homer did that on purpose to hurt Flanders or all that. It does raise a question, but of course, this is a turning point for Homer because Homer isn't a bad person to Flanders as much as he used to be. Ned denounces God, but then comes back and meets Rachel Jordan, a Christian sinner. Next, Season 12, The Computer War Men Issues. I know, Season 12 doesn't seem to bring some good episodes. So anyway, I chose that one. Homer gets a computer, decides to become a blogger named Mr. X, and actually does some great jobs snooping on Mayor Quimby's road cement being used to house women, Mr. Burns with his shit, and a few other things. He wins a Pulitzer Prize. He has to reveal himself as Mr. X in order to prevent the prize winnings to go to feeding hungry children. So Homer is caught by some secret society because his next blog is about flu shots being, on holidays so that people buy stuff during Christmas and all that. It was supposed to be malarkey, but it makes no sense. But unfortunately, Homer and his family are put onto the island, the 1960s TV show. Anyway. Season 13 is Brawl in the Family. That's when the Simpsons snap at each other over a game of Monopoly because of heavy rain and all that. Maggie somehow alerts the police by pushing a button that has a picture of Homer strangling Bart. That's police, I guess. So the police basically force the family to go to jail and find a social worker that will help bring their family back together. But the social worker seems a little bit stunned about the family dynamic. How Bart basically ruins Lisa, and Lisa has to squeeze stress balls, saying 10 more years of this stuff. Marge practically making food to feed her family and basically being unwell. Homer being childish and immature and trying to think that Gabriel's an angel. And Bart doing stuff for attention, even though the bees found him. So anyway, he makes a family thing to try to get some beer from wolves and cougars. Homer wants to split and go their own ways, but they work together and save Gabriel and the beer. So anyway, the family celebrates themselves, but Lisa says, "Is it the end of our series of events?" It's kind of an in-joke, basically saying that, maybe the show ends because they actually got along with each other. But unfortunately, Homer's Vegas wife, Amber, pops in. News spread about the Simpsons going cuckoo on each other, so Amber basically stays there. Homer has to end up marrying both girls, but the family decides to get rid of Amber by basically forcing her to marry Grandpa, and Reverend Lovejoy denounces all marriages before that. So Amber marries Abe, which obviously means that Homer has to remarry Marge. Ginger, who was Ned's Vegas wife in Phoebe Ned Flanders, is sickened by the Flanders family lifestyle and basically runs for her life. Season 14 is Bart versus Lisa versus the third grade. It's when Homer gets a satellite dish. He and Bart watch a lot of shows, but Bart puts off studying for an aptitude test. Bart is demoted to grade 3 because of his poor results. Lisa is brought up to grade 3 because of her good results. Now, it's funny how, Bart is happier in grade 3 than Lisa. Well, Lisa does pretty well. She gets A's, but Bart gets A pluses, mostly because Bart knows the answer keys. And the teachers at Springfield Elementary never changed them for some fucking reason. So anyway, Bart seems to be enjoying the grade 3 lifestyle. Lisa is doing well, but, Lisa is complaining to Marge about how Bart is doing so well, and then Bart sabotages Lisa's state flag thing. They fight, they end up being captured by hillbillies, but they brought them back to Springfield Elementary, and Skinner realizes that the status quo is the best thing to do. Obviously, it's an in-joke, because in Simpsons, usually everything just goes back to normal. So Bart is brought back to grade 4. Lisa does have a choice between grade 2 and grade 3, but Lisa decides to be a big fish in a small pond. Lisa is so emotionally detached and all that. Mila says, "The status quo, ay caramba." Sad. Next is Bart Mangled Banners from season 15. So anyway, Bart tries to not get his shots, but the inoculation slams his ear hole shut. So basically, Bart can't hear. So Bart basically can't hear and all that. He's deaf for a while. And then during a donkey basketball game, he doesn't hear the national anthem. At worst, he's taunting a donkey. Donkey rips his shorts off. And sadly, Bart's bare butt is mooning the American flag that's superimposed. So basically, Bart gets blamed for it. Marge tries to cover up for Bart. But Skinner says he's not believing that Bart could legally be deaf and all that. Because Bart's pulled off a lot of pranks in the past. Even railroads right through the head, Bart. How could Bart fake having a railroad spike through the head? That would have killed you. So anyway, basically the media makes the Simpsons outcast and all that. Marge doesn't help matters by being on a show and basically yelling at people. Springfield loses financing because of the House of Representatives basically want to destroy Springfield. So they turn themselves into an American town and basically arrest the Simpsons on the American Knows Best law, which is like the Patriot Act. Of course, it's a spoof of basically how America overreacted after 9/11 and all that. Basically, that if you say some anti-American things, even like the one guy says, "I think that imported wines are better than Napa Valley wines." That kind of is a thing that basically they were protectionistic of America and Bush and all that. And you know how Bush Sr. basically partially gets blamed for 9/11 because, well, I blame him because, remember, he won an election in 2000 against Al Gore that had to be decided in December. And Bush's popularity rating was waning, like 50-50, so he had to do something about it. He had to have known anything. I know Saudi Arabia is responsible for 9/11 and all that. And how America sucks Saudi Arabia's dick and all that sometimes. Anyway, it had to be said. So they're in Alcatraz. They escape somehow. They get picked up by a French boat. They go back to France. They enjoy the French culture, but everything's back in America, so they go to America as immigrants and start afresh. Season 16 is There's Something About Marrying. This was the episode that dealt with an LGBTQ2 by whatever questioning character. Now, of course, the couch game pissed me off as a Canadian because the Simpsons were raising the Stanley Cup around that, and that was the season when the NHL went on strike and lost the season. But besides that, Bart and Milhouse take advantage of a tourist named Hal Hooser, not realizing that he was part of a TV show crew. And basically, he gives Springfield a bad review, which means Springfield's tourism drops, and they're broke. So they decide to legalize gay marriage. Of course, this was before America fully embraced gay marriage. I think it was like 9 years ago, 10. Reverend Lovejoy refuses to do the ceremony because of his beliefs, and Mayor Quimby's upset because Reverend Lovejoy could basically milk the gays for a lot of money. Homer realizes that he can make a lot of money for a big screen TV and decides to put his anti-gay views out the window for money. Well, greed and corruption. But anyway, Patty decides to get married and wants Homer to officiate the wedding. But it's Veronica. Marge is shocked that Patty would be gay and all that. Marge seems to have a tough time accepting a gay sister and all that. Selma, of course, is upset too. But Patty points out that Selma's been married 4 times. She references, it's like Selma married Sideshow Bob. She married Lionel Hutz, which was actually talked about in the 2 Mrs. Nahasapima Pentalons, because Homer wants Selma to marry Apu for a green card. Oh, no, that's a green card. Wrong episode. But anyway, you get my point. And of course, Troy McClure, because Troy was trying to get rumors out of his head. But basically, and then married Disco Stew, but Disco Stew got an annulment from the Catholic Church. That's unusual. Anyhow, so Patty is mad at Marge because Marge thinks that everyone should marry a Homer clone. But Marge knows something Patty doesn't. Veronica is actually a man who masqueraded as a woman to get onto the LBGA. Patty, of course, doesn't marry a fake. And I like the poignant scene that Marge tells Patty, just because you're a lesbian doesn't make you less of a being. Next is the monkey suit from season 17. There's an exhibit that mocks creatism and basically makes people made of monkeys, from monkeys. Ned, of course, is overreactionary, mostly because, he's trying to care for his 2 boys and doesn't want his 2 boys praying for a stork or a monkey. So basically, he uses Reverend Lovejoy and blackmail to force the theory of creation into schools and all that. Lisa chooses to talk about the theory of evolution, teach a secret class. Unfortunately, she gets arrested, and the police admit that the last major law that's passed, it gets enforced because Springfield doesn't get a lot of budget money. So basically, they react on the last law, and basically every other law that's passed, they don't have the funding to help. So basically, Lisa's odds are stacked against her as a Southern lawyer basically plays on everyone's emotions. However, Homer's antics trying to open a beer bottle basically gets Ned to blurt out, "You stupid monkey." Ned loses the case and is upset. But Lisa basically tells Ned that it's okay because Ned doesn't want evolution being taught in churches just as much as creation doesn't want to be taught in churches. In public schools. Next is the season 18. You can't always say what you want. This was the 400th episode. It was nice seeing a throwback to one of the Simpsons shorts about a family photo or something like that. But of course, Homer ends up winning a ice cream thing, and basically that has more precedence over the Iraq War, and Kid Rockman's pissed off. But not as pissed off as he is when Homer spills some coffee on him and he says a string of swears and all that. Ken thinks that he's safe and all that, but Ned leads a crusade to destroy him. It's often been said that Ned is overreactionary and basically gone off the rails mentally. He's a cuckoo. because he watches TV and basically makes the slightest mistake. If they make the slightest mistake, he writes them down in the book. Basically, only two videos he sees are clean: the 700 Club and the non-Indian head test pattern. Ron and Todd make a point that basically Ned needs a new mummy. Basically, Ned needs a female counterpart to counter his overprotectionism and all that. Unfortunately, the FCC finds Channel 6 a lot of money. Channel 6 has to demote Kent to Weekend Weatherman. Artie Pye is now anchor and all that. Krusty, of course, can't afford to keep the actress who does Itchy and Scratchy. So he does Itchy and Scratchy. He basically doesn't do it well. He deadpans it. He of course, has hatred towards Kent Brockman. Kent is not fired until Lindsay Nagel mistakes Splenda for cocaine. Homer is upset that someone from the liberal arts would actually be in his home. Lisa explains that Homer has been spending a lot of time watching Fox News and questions why Fox News is so freaking conservative and all that. And yet the Fox network has shows that are racy and all that. Kent basically tells Lisa that it's on purpose because the money that Fox has to shell out for fines goes fundamentally to the Republicans. However, Channel 6 decides to hire Kent back, mostly to save their own hide, because they just realized that they fired Kent and Kent can probably destroy the network. Next is That 90s Show, season 19. I liked it. I mean, it actually answered a very important question. It's like the timeline. It's like Homer and Marge are so many years old, yet we're led to believe that Homer and Marge conceived Bart after high school. But the 90s Show episode basically said that Marge went to college. Marge went to college. Homer went to his father's laser tag thing to pay for it. I actually thought that Grandpa was insulting Homer because, have your wife and all that. And, Grandpa got spurned by a wife who wanted to be unconventional. But no, it was, thank you for your medicine. But no, it wasn't. It was to help pay for Marge's education. Marge falls in love with a professor named Professor August. Homer falls into a depression, basically, after Marge leaves him for the professor and decides to start grunge rock instead of being part of a quartet. So anyway, Homer sings a song about Marjorie, and of course Marge is dealing with her professor basically saying that marriage is just terrible and all that. And basically says that Professor August is a night school professor and all that. And Professor August did say that he only got the position because his superior is not that smart. So anyway, Homer, in a kind of a Nirvana spin on Kurt Cobain, he has needles in his arms. Marge tries to clean him up. One problem, though. The needles were not drugs. They were insulin because Homer drank too many frothy drinks. So anyway, Homer and Marge talk about how sickening President Clinton was and said there'll never be a president as bad as him. Of course, they were spoofing like President Bush with his 9/11 thing and basically his Southern style and all that. Of course, now you know who the Americans have as president now. And he's just as bad as Bush Sr. was. So anyway, yeah, then they can see Bart. Season 20 is Take My Wife, Please. So basically this episode was when Homer finds out that his rival Vince got a spot on the Springfield Walk of Fame. And how Homer almost became student body president but lost to Vince in a controversial election. Lenny and Carl let loose that basically they were forced to throw away the ballot box and all that. Homer ends up winning the election and decides to yell at Donnerlinger. It was all part of a plan. Vince and them were going to basically try to destroy Homer when he was class president, and so Donnerlinger had to do something about it. But Homer basically goes to Luigi's and finds out through a sauce that being class president actually led him to a better life. He would live in a much nicer house. The Simpsons' current home would be a guest home for Grandpa Simpson, and basically Grandpa Simpson would be allowed to live close to the Simpsons. He would be popular. Marge says that, yeah, but you wouldn't have any kids. That's what's missing. You know Homer didn't want any kids. All three were abstinents. So anyway, Lisa decides to give Homer a plaque and all that. Season 21 was Boy Meets Curl. Now, of course, I said that I tried avoiding sports. I never gave the fact that I try to avoid sports episodes as much as I can, but sometimes you have no choice. So anyway, Boy Meets Curl. Basically, it's about the Olympics in Vancouver in 2010. Homer and Marge become part of the U.S. mixed curling team with Agnes and Seymour Skinner. Of course, Agnes still has the hatred of Skinner, mostly because Skinner cost her a gold medal in the women's pole vault in 1952. Of course, that's false because the women's pole vault wasn't around until 2000 Olympics. And basically, she holds a grudge against Seymour. Of course, we all know that Skinner's history has been redacted thanks to Prince and the Pauper and all that. So anyway, the U.S. curling team. Homer basically is upset that Agnes wants him cut because Homer's not pulling his weight, even though he weighs a lot. So anyway, Marge injures herself trying to save one of Homer's shots. But then we learn that Marge only became a right-hander. Well, she's a lefty, but she only was a righty because she didn't want to be a freak. And you know how lefties are sometimes called freaks and all that. Even though Ned Flanders is lefty and he opened up the leftorium, which is doing well. Anyway, I like that. But anyway, Marge sweeps through her left arm and basically wins the gold medal for the United States. Unfortunately, it's in a demonstration sport, so the Americans don't really get the gold medal. The subplot was actually quite nice, too, about Lisa being obsessed with Olympic pins so much that they cover her dress, and she loses her pearls to a dealer for a special pin. Basically, Lisa admits that without her pearl necklace, she's basically a large-size model of Maggie. Basically, that people can't tell Maggie and Lisa apart. So anyway, Bart helps her out with her pin addiction. Next is Money Bart. This episode is when Lisa decides to coach Bart's Little League team because with her extracurricular activities, she could probably get into an Ivy League school. So using Moneyball techniques, she helps the team out. But Bart is upset because she's taking the fun away from everything. Even though he hits a home run to win a game and send them to the finals, he basically is thrown off the team for not doing Moneyball strategies. Homer and Marge go to an amusement park and they bump into Mike Scioscia. Remember what I said about Mike Scioscia, being on this list twice? So anyway, Mike Scioscia says that despite Lisa being a bit of a bore, she is your sister. But Lisa needs Bart because in one of the funny scenes in the past few seasons, she basically says that Ralph has juiced himself up, and Ralph says, "I didn't know what would be in my body. What would get in my body?" Juice boxes. Bart basically uses his own techniques to try to steal the winning run, but he fails. But comfort averted. Next is A Long Lost Lead. That's the 500th episode of it in season 23. Basically, the town decides to throw the Simpsons out. Homer, because of his drunken antics. Homer doesn't help things by shooting off a policeman's gun. Saying, we won, because the picture of him was when he and his friends crashed into the school, and Bart's can't be broken. Well, Bart's can't be broken. Bart, because of his pranks, basically, that they're more destructive and less funny. Lisa, because of her environmental things, even though the slide says that less costly, but more of a pain. Basically, that they're losing money having to pay for the damages for everyone. Maggie gets taunted because she never seems to cry, even though, on the contrary, she's cried in many seasons. And Maggie even gives the town the throat slash. Marge is thrown out because she refuses to pin her family for everything. Basically, she protects her family. They go to the Badlands. Marge is distraught. Homer decides to sneak her into Springfield. They get caught, and basically Marge says that we have people who like us for us. All that. The town thinks about it, and basically that they feel guilty that they voted them out. Because especially Ned Flanders, because, the Simpsons care about him. And Patty And Patty makes a point that, the Simpsons didn't mind her being gay and all that. So basically the town decides to move Springfield to the Badlands. So this is the third Springfield site. The first one, of course, was the main one from like season 1. And then the second one was when Homer, as trash and sanitation commissioner, basically ruined the town so much that they moved 5 miles down the road and all that. So yeah. Episode 24 is To Cure with Love. What? Did I write that down? Ah, jeez. Oh, Santa's will help her. That's SLH. Sorry. I screwed up my chicken scratch. So anyway, this episode was when Santa's will help her ends up being neglected by Homer. And Bart yells at him saying that you never liked Santa's will help her. And then Grandpa tells a clear story that Homer had a dog named Bongo that cared about him. Basically, Bongo was Homer's safety blanket after Mona left Abe and Homer. Unfortunately, Bongo gets hunted down by Burns because when Burns handed out stuffed toys to try to get the kids to help him with the nuclear power plant, Homer decides to give one to Bongo. But Burns made a point saying that those are people toys. Bongo snipes at Burns. And basically Burns decides to try to get Bongo with a dog catcher named Clancy Wiggum. Clancy becomes less a dog catcher, more of a police officer, mostly because Lou, his shadow buddy in the Big Brother program, wants to be a cop. Basically, he wants to be a cop too. So anyway, Abe decides to send Bongo to an old neighbor's home. And Bart and Homer is upset about it. Of course, Abe decides to be Burns' linchpin for his attack dogs for a year. But unfortunately, Homer doesn't understand it. Homer then realized the story that there was something more to the story. He actually went to try to get Bongo back. But because Bongo was enjoying life with his new family, it broke Homer's heart. However, Abe shares with Homer a picture of Bongo sleeping on a sweatshirt that Homer used to have. Next is season 25, and You Don't Have to Live Like a Referee. This was kind of a foreshadowing thing, if you will. Because Simpsons are good for foreshadowing weird events. So anyway, the family goes to an assembly when the kids have to name who their big hero is to win a scholarship. Lisa's hero, Mary Curry, was taken by Martin, so basically Lisa scrambles to find a replacement. Bart says, what about Homer? Basically, out of luck. So Lisa says nice stuff about Homer and basically says that Homer, as a soccer referee, actually basically cheered against his daughter, and that's not what parents do. Homer's referee story basically makes its way to FIFA, and they said that Homer could be a perfect candidate to be a referee because, corruption in Brazil and all that. Of course, there was a little bit of FIFA corruption before this episode, but after, it's like huge. So anyway, Homer is a referee, basically trying to stop bribe after bribe after bribe after bribe. It's funny seeing Marge trying to use the Portuguese on her phone and all that, and basically everyone says, just click English. But anyway, Homer stops the bribes. Bart basically spills to Homer that the only reason why Lisa thinks Homer is her hero is because Lisa's original pick was swiped from her. Homer decides to take the bribe, realizing that Lisa actually played with his heart. Lisa makes a speech about saying that, yeah, I know you're hurt, but what you're doing at the World Cup is basically what we all thought you would be. So basically Homer decides to screw over the Mafia guy and not fix the match. Germany ends up beating Brazil 2-0. It's kind of funny that the Simpsons projected Germany beating Brazil, albeit in the show it was the final, and then Germany-Brazil met in the semifinals in the real 2014 World Cup. And that was that 7-1 blowout. So anyway, in 2014, Homer has his life taken away from him. But the Mafia man's mother said that they owe the Simpsons a favor because Lisa swapped seats with her on the plane. Okay, so course, that was the top 25. Now I have to add 5 more years. Season 26 is Bull E. Basically, Springfield has a bully act after Bart gets bullied and all that. And basically, a lot of people go to jail. Homer ends up going to jail because of the way he bullies Ned Flanders. Homer, in prison, realizes that he only does that to Ned because he's jealous of how Ned has everything together, and Homer seems to not have anything together. He tries to apologize to Flanders. Flanders says, no way. Homer does a prayer session, and Ned actually forgives him. Season 27 is Puffless. This was also another episode that answered a question from a lot of fans. The fans were like, what the hell happened to Clancy Bouvier, or Marge's father? During a family event for Marge's mom, that Homer does not want to go to because, Marge's family basically hates him. It's revealed that through many pictures and all that about Marge's dad. Marge wonders what happened to Dad, and so do Patty and Selma. Jacqueline reveals that he died of lung cancer, and of course, in the age of trying to cover up lung cancer and not being ashamed, with tobacco companies basically lying through their teeth, that was the right thing to do. And Patty and Selma are shocked that after the lung cancer thing, how come they were allowed to smoke? I thought it made you look cool. Of course, Jacqueline Bouvier had something against Marge, but that's to be said. So basically, Patty decides to move out of the apartment after Selma refuses to stop. Selma moves out because Patty refuses to stop smoking. Selma does admit to Homer that her bullying of Homer is mostly because she's jealous that Homer seems to make Marge happy and all that. But anyway, things go back to normal. Season 28 is There Will Be Buds. This episode was when Springfield is basically stopped doing Pee Wee football because of head injuries, because of concussions. So basically, Kirk and Howden, who nobody wants to cheer for, says something about lacrosse. Marge volunteers Homer to help Kirk out because it's for the children. And Bart and Lisa are on the team. And Lisa's finally a star athlete and being likable. Homer is sickened by the fact he has to hang out around Kirk's weird things. So basically, he says some kind of song and all that. Kirk says some song about Homer, but Homer basically sings some song saying that he's only doing it for the kids. Kirk runs to a strip club. Homer is made to get Kirk. They win the championship and all that. But of course, Kirk is left alone. Season 29 is the old blue mare ain't what she used to be. This was basically the episode when Marge decides to throw her hat into the mayoral race with Mayor Quimby. She ends up beating Mayor Quimby and all that. And she says her legacy is to destroy the Springfield tire fire. But the guy who has a souvenir stand in front of the tire fire protested, saying that basically the tire fire souvenirs have basically paid for his son to go to college and name a stutter after him. So, and to add more fuel on the fire, he's a Vietnam War vet, and Marge feels compelled to basically say that I can't do that to a Vietnam vet. So that's that. And then, of course, you got yourself the fact that the public doesn't want Marge because Marge's guilt basically has ruined her legacy. But when Homer embarrasses her and all that, it makes the town likable. They make Homer the town oaf, but Marge can't bring herself to destroy Homer. And basically, all that. Homer and Marge actually go through an exhibit about Marge's role as mayor. She does a good job, but the town recalls her and makes Quimby mayor. This was obviously a satire on how sexist people can be. All that. How they would rather have a womanizing mayor than someone who basically won't hurt Homer in a negative way. And then, of course, season 30 is Go Canada! I tried as best as I can to deny a Canadian show, like a Canadian-based show, but I couldn't. Season 30 had some decent episodes, but not like Go Canada. Basically, Lisa and the family go to Niagara Falls on the U.S. side for a family vacation. Homer sings about how upstate New York has really been destroyed and all that on the way there. But anyway, Lisa ends up blowing into Niagara Falls and saved and put on the Canadian side. Lisa says some ugly things about America. Marge tries to shush her, and the Mountie decides to give her political asylum because, he feels that Lisa is basically putting America, the beliefs and all that. The funny thing is that Lisa is given a chance to cheer for a Canadian team, and the Mountie gives her an Ottawa hat. You know how shitty Ottawa is. Well, of course, as a proud Toronto Maple Leaf fan, and all that. Who would believe you? So anyway, the Simpsons tried to get Lisa back to the United States. Lisa is inspired to go back to the States, even though Canada has great health care. Lisa was allowed to Skype with Prime Minister Trudeau, but she basically said something about the SNC-Lavalin affair, which is kind of nice how the Simpsons were more current with their stuff and all that, and apologized for how President Trump called Justin Trudeau weak and all that. Trump is a blowhard, no matter how you say it. Even Americans think he's blowhard. Will he be impeached? Actually, no. I think the best way to get rid of Trump is to phone him out. I don't think they can impeach him. They couldn't impeach Clinton. They let him ride out the rest of his term. That'll probably be what happens to Trump, as is. But anyhow. So anyway, she does go back to America, basically saying that she can make a difference. She's a youth to make America better. She can make America great again. Mm-hmm. So anyway, they send her back to Canada and all that. Lisa also is frightened away from Canada because of how Canada seems to be nice, but they basically make some insults on two ethnic groups. The Quebecois, which is true, and the Newfies. Well, the people from Newfoundland. And it doesn't help that a character that kind of looks like Ralph wears a seal cup hat and all that. That was one of the major complaints in this episode. And also the upstate New York people basically complained too. Because the Simpsons are insulting them and all that. It's just fucking satire. So you've seen the Simpsons episodes from the first 30 years of the show. Now I give you the 5-year extra. So now, because this video will go out today, December 17th, 2024, which is the 35th anniversary of Simpsons Roasting on an Open Fire, I practically will give you some more, like my favorite episodes from 31 to 35. Now I'd be thinking, have you really watched The Simpsons for the last 5 seasons? Kind of, off and on. Like I find a good episode synopsis and I'm like, well, a preview, and I'm like, okay, cool, I'll take this one. So anyway, the first one, now there's actually going to be 2 from season 31 and none from season 34 because I couldn't find a good season 34 episode, which is unusual. So anyway, the 2 season 31 episodes. Well, the first one was Living La Pura Vida. It was an episode in which Marge gets jealous of people flaunting their vacation photos to him, and Marge wants a good vacation and for her to be the one that to boast to people and not the other way around. So anyway, Marge wants this so badly, and Homer says, well, we can't really afford it because now the car is actually the landlord of the house, because of course at the time that was when Ned was supposed to be the landlord, but I guess Ned wasn't. So yeah, the car owns the house and all that. And Lisa starts worrying, twisting her hair, and basically trying to get Marge and Homer to understand her point of view, which fails. So basically, Lisa says no one's caring about the price. We're going to be living in our car forever. So basically, thanks to quick thinking, Bart and Lisa think that they've caught the Van Halen smuggling stuff, but no, that was the souvenirs for everybody. But then they find out that the Van Halens are basically living in the Costa Rica house rent-free because it came from one of Luann's ancestors. And so basically, they were going to build the Simpsons and all that and live off their dime. So, of course, the Van Halens have to return all the money. And that was when Patty's new love interest, Evelyn, comes in. But
basically because Homer screws things up. Patty then learns that she should stay with Evelyn. The second episode of season 31 was Todd, Todd, why hast thou forsaken me? It was practically an episode that sees Todd, you know, the second Flanders boy, having a vision of Maud as a goat. Well, anyway, Todd says he doesn't know what Maud looks like because, she's been gone so long. Unfortunately, visions of Maud are interrupted by Homer and Abe. So basically, Todd has doubts and basically decides to forsake God for taking his mother and making him forget. So Ned is upset by it and tries to get Todd to basically get God back. But when Todd refuses, Ned decides to send him to hell, or the second best place, the Simpson home, until he's ready to apologize. Lisa spends the episode trying to convince Todd to be a Buddhist and all of that. In the meantime, Homer has feelings about the fact that Todd's worried about his mother, and it brings back bad memories for Homer and his mother. So after an incident in which Homer and Ned actually get drunk and then gets hit by a car, they're both in the hospital, and Marge actually tells Todd that you should pray to God because you can help your dad, all that. So he does. So Todd believes in God and Buddha for safety things. Ned's okay. Homer's okay. Bart was praying for Homer, but says, I wasn't praying for Homer's safety and all that. The fact of the matter also was that Homer almost got his good side with Mona. He almost got his happy ending with Mona, but then he awakes just before he's ready to hug her. So Ned is convinced that Todd is back on the winning side, so he basically says, that's fine. And then Todd dreams about his mother in a good place. Unfortunately, Lisa, for some reason, gets visited by Buddha, who chastises her for not getting to Todd because Todd would chase a butterfly. And then Lisa, to try to please Buddha, who's now slimmer in a sense, she presents Ralph, and Buddha is not too pleased with Ralph. But then Ralph says, everything is nothing. And then Buddha says, kid, you have just blown my mind. Anywho, season 32, my favorite episode was Diary Queen. It's when Bart and Milhouse find Mrs. Krabappel's old diary because, she died a few seasons earlier. And Bart is inspired to do better with a journal entry based off of him. So he starts to do better and decides to enter the spelling bee. But Lisa actually is contemplating telling Bart the truth, but said it was just because of her cat. And Bart is just Bart's deflated and all that. However, Ned decides to tell Bart that Krabappel actually had a chance to move on to Springfield because Ned was tired of Homer's boorish things and said that we're going to leave Springfield forever. But Krabappel, using the archive voice of Marcia Wallace, says that, she needs to stay in Springfield to help boys like Bart Simpson out. And so Bart realizes that Krabappel sacrificed so much for him. So he smiles. Season 33 was called You Won't Believe What This Is About. After We Will Shock You. It's basically a series of unfortunate events made it look like Homer intentionally locked Santa's little helper into the car on a hot day. Of course, you don't leave your pets in the car on a hot day. The town is angry. Lisa wants to write an apology for Homer to read out, but Homer is upset with how everything is woke, so he flips up his arms and it knocks Reverend Lovejoy out the church window. The incidents go viral online, and basically the Simpsons are pariahs. Phil, a guy, actually owns an institute that can restore Homer's image. They tried to stage acts of charity, but it fails. So basically, Phil decides to have Homer push a button on a computer, which basically can erase media from the internet, and break into the headquarters of a clickbait site. Homer, alongside many people, even Kirk Van Houten, who basically screams at a coach to try to take that he's upset that the coach is not taking Milhouse out of the game. So basically, it will erase the videos of bad acts of political leaders, which is the purpose of the Institute. Homer realizes it and basically could not do it. So he basically reads Lisa's apology note to the world, and the town forgives him. And season 35, the last full season, of course, is called Lisa Gets an F1. It spoke to me because, I'm an F1 fan and a Simpsons fan. So basically, Lisa starts getting anxiety when Homer's reckless driving affects her. Her therapist actually suggests Lisa try to drive a go-kart to make herself feel good while in a vehicle. And Lisa likes it so much, she decides to be a kart racer, and she's basically queen of the circuit, if you will. So anyway, Springfield decides to host a couple of F1 races for kids, and Bart befriends Lisa's rival Paulo for money and influence, basically using Paulo to get what he wants. All that. But then, strange as it sounds, Homer actually becomes the anxious one, and Marge becomes the nonchalant one, whereas usually the roles are reversed. So Homer becomes anxious and tries to stop Lisa from doing the F1 thing. Paulo is upset that Bart is Lisa's brother and figures that Bart was trying to gain Paulo's trust to sabotage him. So he's upset by it. Anyhow, in a big race, Lisa and Paulo are fighting it out. Paulo sabotages Lisa's bike, Lisa's cart, but doesn't realize that he CC'd Bart on the team chat. And Bart translates from Italian to English and gets Homer to go save his daughter. So basically, Homer sees Lisa driving out of control and drives on the track to rescue her and save her from much dismay. Which is kind of strange, as I said, that Homer and Marge's roles are reversed. So now you are up to date with 35 Simpsons episodes for 35 years. I tried my best to stay away from sports episodes or holiday episodes because, that's a little bit unbiased because I'm a sports guy. But, come on, Homer at the bat? That beat the Cosby Show. The F1 race? What else was I going to say about season 35? So anyway, thanks for watching this 35-year stuff about The Simpsons. I'm Jeff Diamond. Adieu.